Okay, hello everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. It is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. Welcome to our next Avid audio community plugin. Welcome to everybody around the world, wherever you might be. I hope everyone's staying safe. My name is Greg Chin, Greg Strike Chin. I am the audio evangelist for Avid. I have the honor of hosting most of these sessions. We've been doing these since May. And we'll continue to do them. We've been covering a lot of wide and varied topics, and the one that we're doing today is one that's near and dear to my heart. So again, wherever you might be in the world, welcome. If you've registered for the session today here on Zoom, we're going to go through some housekeeping notes, how folks can answer questions, and what the cadence of the session will be. But again, welcome to everyone. So I'm based in Miami, Florida. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit, or a lot actually, about virtual instruments in Pro Tools. So if you were around last month in September, I did one of the sessions we did was around my own personal workflow, creating electronic music, electronic dance music in Pro Tools. Obviously, virtual instruments play a big role in that. So I figured what we would do today is have today be kind of a supplemental, kind of a extra guide, talking through some of that stuff. So one of the things I find is that folks always ask about plugins and their usage in Pro Tools. We've got so many users that use it for editing, recording, and mixing. But it's a really amazingly powerful creative tool. So we'll get into that, and we've got a special guest here as well from our friends. Our friends from Arturia are going to be joining us a little bit later to show off some of their virtual instruments and effects plugins in Pro Tools. But before we get into that, some housekeeping. So again, we're streaming live on a bunch of different platforms. So again, if you've registered, which we always recommend that you register, because that's how you're going to be able to get the most out of this session, because you'll be able to ask questions directly here. Not that you can't ask questions on the other platforms, but it does make things a little bit easier, and that actually gives us the ability to communicate with you a little bit easier, let you know when the session's available for replay, if you wanted to share it with friends, family, loved ones, enemies, anybody that may not have had the opportunity to check it out live here today. So we've got moderators on all of our platforms. So we've got the famous Gil Gowing and the famous Dave Tyler joining me here in the room as moderators. They'll be monitoring the questions here in Zoom. But we're also broadcasting live across a bunch of different social media platforms. So YouTube, Facebook, we've got our two Facebook groups. So our Avid Facebook group and our Pro Tools Facebook groups. Hi to everybody. We're also broadcasting through on YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So we've got moderators from our global product specialist team. So I want to say thank you to them. We have an amazing product specialist team. So thank you to them for helping to moderate this. So if you have questions on those platforms, do feel free to ask whatever you'd like. We'll try and answer as many questions as we can, even from those platforms. We'll gather some of those up and answer some of those live here when we get to the Q&A at the end. But again, really, most of the Q&A will probably come from directly here from our registered participants. So for those of you who are here in Zoom, a couple of things on housekeeping and how to get the best out of your webinar experience. So in Zoom, you can actually ensure that gallery view is selected, specifically when Ian Martinez from Arturia is going to be joining us. We'll be talking back and forth. So instead of having it just be everybody all over the place, this will give you a bit more of a roundtable view, if you like. Also, we have our moderators here. We have a bunch of folks in the room, so it might be helpful just to save some real estate on your screen and hide non-video participants. So anyone who's not on camera will kind of hide their little Zoom blocks, so you don't have to worry about that populating your entire screen. Of course, we'll do Q&A around. We schedule about an hour for these webinars. We do sometimes go over, depending on the amount of questions we get. We try to answer again as many things as we possibly can. For those of you here in the room in Zoom, if you'd like to ask a question, and again, you can ask them while we're going on, Gil and Dave will handle as many of those as they can. And then again, when we get to the Q&A, we'll answer them live in the room between myself and Ian, and of course Gil and Dave may join. But if you want to ask a question, just use the Q&A button in your menu there, and you can type your question. Please, let us know your name, where you're from, and then what your question is, and as much information as you'd like to get back as an answer. You can be as detailed as you can. This is a safe space. We do ask that everybody also, be respectful of one another. We do find ourselves in some crazy times, but we're happy to be able to do this for you all and with you all. And I think with that, we'll get right into it. So, as I mentioned, we've been really, doing a lot of different varied topics. We actually wanted to say thank you to Jeff Komar, who our previous session a couple of weeks ago, he did a really amazing deep dive on the Matrix Studio. Really amazing interface that we have here. So we want to thank Jeff for doing that. And we've been covering a lot of different things. Now, as a musician, and specifically as an electronic music person myself, creating genres, house, techno, ambient, it's really important for me to be able to be as efficient and remain in that creative space. So a lot of folks always ask me, what I'm doing my music in. They know I'm mixing in Pro Tools, but what am I actually creating my beats and all my synths and virtual instruments? What DAW am I using to host those? And the answer is always Pro Tools. So Pro Tools is absolutely an amazingly creative platform and DAW. And that is, my 14 years here, that has been my main goal here, is to make sure I continue to champion that and evangelize that, I guess, under my title. So I figured what we do today, again, and this is kind of a supplemental addendum, I guess, if you will, to my last webinar that I did last month, and focus a little bit more on really the ability to use virtual instruments in Pro Tools. So I figured with that, we would start with we'll go right to the beginning. So as you may or may not know, I know we've got a wide net of users here. AAX is the plugin platform created here at Avid, and that's what we use for all of our plugins, for our effects plugins, our utility plugins, and of course virtual instruments. It's our proprietary technology. So AAX, that stands for Avid Audio Extension. We love our acronyms here, and so AAX is our plugin platform. Obviously, we know that VST, AU audio units also exist. And folks usually ask me, well, why did Avid, go and create their own plugin platform when certainly these are the ones exist? And we love VST, we love AU. They're excellent platforms that serve a number of DAWs out there as well. But of course, with Pro Tools, one of the really important things to kind of remember is that really, the power of Pro Tools starts with our DSP architecture, and everything kind of surrounds that. And of course, Pro Tools works natively as well. I skipped a slide here. Oh, that's okay. So it's important to know that it's a fully 64-bit code base. So whether you're working in our HDX DSP architecture or natively, the code base is exactly the same. So we needed to ensure that it was a very powerful set of tools to be able to make sure that the sonic parity, all the power of the platforms, whether you're working natively or using our DSP architecture, is fully the same and consistent across the board. So that's why we've created our own plugin extension. We've got thousands of plugins that are available for AAX. So if you're working on a different DAW on a different platform, whether VST or AU, chances are that plugin also exists as an AAX. And usually those companies are third-party developers, and partners will create binaries that will, when you install it, will install, or at least give you the option to install all different versions of their plugins. So it is a bit of a unique differentiation that we have here, and that's why AAX exists. I did also want to point out, folks always ask me, well, where can I find all my favorite, plugins if I want to, purchase them as an AAX plugin. So you can find them where you find pretty much any other plugin. So of course, your favorite reseller. So if you're a fan of Sweetwater, Guitar Center, Vintage King, whatever that your favorite audio reseller might be, you can purchase your favorite plugins there, and they'll be available as AAX. Of course, we have our own marketplace as well, so you can actually purchase, find information on these plugins directly on avid.com/plugins, and of course the Avid marketplace on Avid link. And I figured what I would do is just quickly kind of share a couple of screens here to highlight what those look like just very quickly. So the first one I'll share is here is the plugin marketplace on avid.com. So this is avid.com/plugins. You can see here that you can quickly search those plugins by category. Of course, we have a search functionality. And of course, we're going to be focusing on instruments today. So of course, if you click instruments, that'll populate with a ton of really great instruments, all available as AAX plugins. The other thing I mentioned is you can actually use Avid Link. So most of you are familiar with Avid Link. This is our kind of our community platform where folks are getting all their software installations for Pro Tools and their plugins, and we've got a really great forum there. But our marketplace also exists there. So here I am in Avid Link. Of course, there's our marketplace, and again, you can filter by what you're looking for. So if I wanted to find plugins, so here we go, audio plugins. And of course, today we're focusing on instruments. You can actually search, specifically by the plugin type you're looking for. So a lot of great plugins. You can see here, there's a ton of really amazing instruments available in Pro Tools under AAX. So with that, I figured what we would do right now is actually go right into a little bit of a demo. And what I'd like to do is just focus on a couple of plugins. Again, there's thousands of these available, but I figure what might help is showing why Pro Tools is also a really great place to be able to create your music, not just record and mix and edit, but actually from the start of songwriting, having Pro Tools kind of be the front end of all of it. Again, at the end of the day, we know that pretty much anything's going to end up in Pro Tools to be mixed anyway. So we are friends with all the other manufacturers. So if you're using Logic or Ableton Live or whatever other DAW you might be using, that's perfectly fine. We're not forcing anybody to do all their work here. But I think it is important that folks understand that this is available to them. So I've got a session up here. It's there's really not much there. This is Pro Tools, obviously. I'm using Pro Tools Ultimate, but this could very easily be just the standard version of Pro Tools. And I figured what I would do is, again, just go through a couple of plugins, just highlight some stuff, some favorites of mine, and with each one of these plugins, I'll show a little Pro Tools workflow that I think makes Pro Tools that much more creative and powerful, specifically in terms of working with virtual instruments. So the first one I will kind of pull up here and showcase is a favorite. This is, I think everyone knows what this is. This is the Roland TR-808. This is the Roland Cloud virtual instrument. So Roland Cloud have been around for a couple of years now. Obviously, Roland has been around for a very long time. The TR-808, an iconic drum machine that was introduced, I believe it was 1983 or 1982, early 80s. I own one right back there. I have pretty much all of the famous Roland equipment, from drum machines to synths. I'm a huge fan. While I still use them from time to time, I actually end up using the virtual instrument versions now more than anything else, because it's very efficient. So we're really stoked to be able to have all the Roland Cloud instruments available in Pro Tools as AAX. So here we have the Roland TR-808. Now you can see here that the UI is again, it's that iconic Roland UI, but this is also based on the actual architecture of the actual 808. So it looks like it, but it also, more importantly, sounds exactly like it. So, all right, those very sharp hi-hats, that famous snappy kick, which can be affected here, that famous clap, of course, that snappy snare. all available here. Now, Roland took it a step further, and actually they've done something really great, which considering that these are virtual instruments, they wanted folks who were brand new to, maybe folks who had never had the opportunity to work with some of their iconic instruments, now find themselves working with these instruments in a DAW. They've given you an edit window, so you can see here I've got a step editor that I can actually go through and tap out a rhythm. But I figure what I'd like to do really quickly is show you one of the ways I like to program, specifically drums, or actually synths as well, using a feature in Pro Tools. So we're going to quickly, I'm going to go ahead and close the edit window here. Let me just go back to the regular portion here, and we can quickly record a quick pass. So we track enable, record that track for record, and then I've got a count off, and then we'll just do a couple of quick bars. I already have just a couple of bars selected. Click record, and then I've got loop playback as well. So as we get to the end of the second bar, it'll loop right back around, and I can continue to record, right? Okay, so let me go ahead and mute that. Reasons talking out of turn. So we've got the 808 here. It's a little bit sloppy. It's actually very sloppy, and that's kind of on purpose. So we've got the kick, clap, and we've got some very messy hi-hats. So the reason I did that, this is actually the way I actually do program some of my hi-hats, specifically like varied 16th note hi-hats, because the feature, and I love showing this feature, is real-time properties. So real-time properties is a feature that's been in Pro Tools, I think, since version 6. Maybe Gil or Dave can correct me, but this is the feature that actually brought me into Pro Tools. I mentioned this last month, and I figured what I would do is I would show it again, because anytime and any opportunity I get to show that, I do. So real-time properties, I'm able to take 5 of the most common properties of MIDI and affect them in real time non-destructively. So you can see here, I've got my pattern. And I'm just going to go ahead and quantize that very quickly. And you can see here, I can actually choose the value. So I've got 16th notes selected. I can even swing it if I wanted to. So you can see there now, I'm actually quantized to a 16th note. And I can actually even swing it if I want. Let's do it 50%. Now you can really hear that swing on the hi-hat, right? So of course, we've also got note duration, note delay, velocity, and transposition. So very powerful. And again, it's real time and non-destructive. So at any point, I can change the value. So whole notes, right? And it's non-destructive, so I can always turn it off, have my original performance, okay? So let's go ahead and do something a little bit useful. So there we go, the Roland TR-808 from Roland Cloud paired up with real-time properties, very powerful. Moving right along, we'll jump down to a plugin that came over to AAX back, I believe it was April of this year, and we've got Reason now available as Reason Rack, or I should say, available in Pro Tools. So if you're familiar with Reason, Reason is its own standalone kind of DAW, everything in one place, and is now available in Pro Tools. So you can actually use Reason as Reason Rack in Pro Tools as a plugin, which is great. So I've got just a simple kind of bass tone with some harmonics and strings behind it that I created. And you can see here, I've already got a pattern. You heard the pattern when I was recording the 808 previously. So it's already here. Let's just give it a quick listen. I'll go ahead and solo that. So what I wanted to do here is actually, one of the things I love doing is as I'm creating, if I come up with a pattern or something that I know I'm going to be using in my mix, and maybe I'd like to reserve some CPU for other tasks, what I can actually do is use a function and a feature in Pro Tools that I love and use quite often. So I figured with Reason, what I would show off is commit. So being able to commit audio or commit MIDI to audio very quickly. So to do that, let me go ahead and push Reason to the back here. And I'm just going to quickly pull up a stereo audio track. So I'm doing everything live so you can actually see how it's done. So we're going to go ahead and create that. So that's now created that stereo audio track directly underneath my Reason instrument track. So all I'm going to go ahead and do is grab that clip from Reason, that MIDI, and I'm going to drag and drop it right into my audio track. So what it's going to go ahead and do is bounce that and create an audio track very simply, and there it is. So if I go ahead and mute the actual instrument track, hearing now, it's actually the waveform is a file. So really quick way that you can actually, as you're creating stuff, go and make really quick audio clips to be able to use in your mix later down the line. Again, it can be really great to help reserve some CPU power if you need it. I don't really need it now, obviously. But one of the things I also wanted to show off really quickly is you can see I did do the drag and drop there directly onto the audio track. And you can see here that right at the end of the bar, because that's what I drag and drop, it's 2 bars. But Pro Tools is actually really intelligent. And that last note actually has some tail with some of the harmonics and some of the string stuff. Additionally, if I just go ahead and let's go ahead and put this in slip. If I go ahead and trim this out, you can see that the actual tail, Pro Tools has intelligently recorded that and made it available. So really powerful, makes it really easy to be able to use. And then we'll go on right to the next one. So I want to make sure we've got enough time for Ian. So I'll just show maybe 1 or 2 more quick things. So the next one. So you can see here that it's I've got Serum here. Quick way that you can actually search for your plugins. I think everyone will pretty much go to their insert, click on the insert, right? And then they'll basically go through their entire list of plugins. Maybe they've got it on, everything you can search under instrument. You can see here, there's a ton of instruments available. Of course, if you have it set up, you can actually search by developer as well. And of course, one of the other things you can do is actually type. We can actually now search for the plugin you're looking for. So if I click on the insert, not in my notes, I can actually start typing what I'm looking for, and Pro Tools will then start searching for it, right? So you can see that I started typing Serum SER, and you can see that I can actually instantiate it there. However, what I wanted to actually show you was a feature that we've introduced in Pro Tools called track presets. So I like to have these kind of starting points for instruments and effects. And I actually have we call it in techno, we call it a Reese bass sound named after Kevin Saunderson and his Reese project. And it's kind of a really famous kind of iconic bass type tone that we love using. So I've created something with Serum, and I've actually saved it along with a couple of other plugins in the plugin chain. So I can quickly bring that up here as I've saved it as a track preset. So if I want to go ahead and pull that back up, I'll just click on my insert, and I'm going to go here to recall inserts, and I've got some stuff saved under my name under Strike. And then I've got my instrument chains that I've got some stuff selected, saved, and there's my Reese bass. So if I click that, my track preset is now going to populate onto my inserts. So here we go. It's going to pull those up. And do forgive me, I've got like 15 things happening on my screen. So I am actually using up quite a bit of CPU with the Zoom audio interface, etc. So anyway, we've got Serum up here now. So there's Serum, and this is a very famous plugin from X Records. And then you can see I've got a couple other things here as well. So there's Serum, and if I go ahead and play that back, let's go. Let me take that out of Record Enable and make sure. There we go. So Serum is a really amazing wavetable synth, very powerful. And you can see here in my track preset, I've got a couple other things. So I've got Equilibrium by DMG, kind of pulling out some of the mids. And then from Native Instruments, who also, as you are very well familiar with, have a ton of really amazing virtual instruments, but they've got some great effects plugins as well. So I'm using Choral to add a little bit of chorus and some space to that sound. And that's, quite simply using track presets. So I know we're kind of running out of time. I wanted to make sure we give Ian all the time he needs, but I will quickly kind of show off, Pro Tools does come with some really great virtual instruments. So here we have Expand. Expand is a 4-part multi-timbral instrument. So kind of really cool pad there. Now it's 4-part multi-timbre, I wanted to kind of show that off a little bit, but maybe we'll go ahead and reserve that for another webinar where I'll be able to actually dive into that and show you exactly how to do that using leveraging instrument tracks and MIDI tracks. Very easy to do, and I'll walk you through that one next time. So let me go ahead and I'll stop my share here, and then we'll jump back over to our PowerPoint. And I wanted to point something out really quickly, no pun intended. And then we'll have Ian, we'll introduce Ian here in a second. So as I did mention that, we've got some really great virtual instruments that are included with Pro Tools. So we've got Air Boom, which is a great drum machine, the DB33 tone wheel organ, the Mini Grand, which that should say Mini Grand, not DB33, apologies. So obviously a really wonderful piano with some really great models in it. We've got Structure Free, which is the free version of the Air Structure Sampler, really powerful, great sampler. Air Vacuum, dual oscillator, monophonic synth. Love that. I use that for a ton of bass tones and bass lines, but does really screaming leads as well. And then of course, Air Expand 2, which I just showed you. Of course, if you are on subscription, we have a lot of great extra added value for those customers who are users who are on subscription. So if you are current on your subscription, you've got UVI Falcon 2, which is a powerhouse synth sampler, does so many great things. So if you're on a subscription, you actually have that. And it's important to note that all of these plugins are available for sale. If you're in other DAWs and you wanted to use them, so there's a lot of great actual value here. So I just wanted to point that out. I think it's important that folks understand that Pro Tools actually does have some great plugins included. So figured what we would do right now is get to our special guest. We are really happy to have Ian Martinez from Arturia. He's based in LA. He's an amazing producer and engineer. And I'm going to invite Ian, if you want to go ahead and turn your camera on, turn your mic on, and welcome. It's great to have you here.
Hello.
Thanks for waking up early and joining us for this.
Thank you.
So, Ian, again, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to stop screen sharing, and you're going to walk us through, I think, an actual production that you're working on right now with an artist, right?
Correct. That's right.
And you're going to showcase some of the awesome Arturia virtual instruments and some of the effects plugins too, right?
Yes,
awesome.
Definitely.
Well, welcome. I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great day so far. My name is Ian Martinez once again from Arturia. I do the marketing communications for Arturia US. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and showcase Analog Lab within V Collection, which is the main browser that encompasses the whole V Collection. All 24 instruments are encompassed in this one browser per se. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share. Let's see here. So if you can see that, that is our beloved Analog Lab. Okay, every single synth is openable through clicking here. You can open up the actual synth, open up the advanced panel, open up the hood, and see what's happening underneath. Okay, so alongside with having the individual instruments, you can go into the browser and go through the different categories here. This is an amazing representation of the 8 knobs, 8 faders that correlate to the mirror image of what's on a Keylab Essential or Keylab Mark II. I can actually move my knob here and go through the different categories as such. And it's just very easy to kind of change parameters and tweak your sound. There's a concert mode here, which I'll go ahead and jump into. I'm not going to play jump per se, but I will show you the first sound at OBXA, which is an amazing synth we just came out with a few months ago. Let's see here. And let's see if you can hear this thing. All right. Okay, so pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that one. We got another sound called Running Blaze, which I love. I really like the pads in OBXA personally. They have a lot of moving technology involved in them. And just to go back to our technology, Arturia has something called TAE, something called True Analog Emulation. What that means is that Arturia's proprietary technology started with no samples. So we designed oscillators with instability, which helps to create warmer and fatter sounds while maintaining the clarity. has direct filter circuit modeling, and has soft clipping. So yeah, going back into it, open up the hood, go to filter frequency. You can actually see the filter move in the envelope available. And you can see it climbing up the ladder there. Create new types of sounds in the way that we want to play them, and really tweak and create your own variations of what we're looking at here. If we go to Lonely Sunday, for example, which is another synth that I love, and we go into here, this is actually a detuned type of sound. You can see that the tuning is going down and up throughout that note. So if I play that here,
That you sounded pretty cool.
right? Trying to figure out my preset here. You guys still with me?
Yeah, we're still here.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for thank you all for dealing with with Zoom and using the that as the audio interface does present some challenges when it comes.
It's
to
very interesting.
Kind of stuff.
Very interesting. I've been trying to figure it out for quite some time, but let's see if I can actually create another track. 1 second, and then it'll reset itself, I'm assuming here. If not, we'll get into the track itself with the effects collection. But there are some things that I do want to touch on with this this instrument. I was also going to touch on the Mellotron. Let's see what we got. If we can play this thing. Actually, what I'm going to go ahead and do is jump to the Mellotron and see if we can get sound there. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second here.
You're all good.
Well, you know what? I think I'm not going to be able to play this thing. I think Zoom is kind of freaked out within my key lab, and I even restarted my key lab, and it's not coming through. So let's go in the effects collection. I'm going to explain something with the rest of the instruments as well. Okay. Let me make sure this is going to play for us so we can continue with this session. Okay, let's see here, playback. No, it's not playing. Let's try this. No.
I tell you what, Ian. Since unfortunately, like I said, Zoom does tend to be a little strange with this stuff. We run into these issues. Regardless of what I had this issue last night with just QuickTime playing back over Zoom.
Yeah.
So it does tend to happen. So it's just everyone knows it's not DAW centric. It's not DAW specific. It could be anything. So maybe what we'll do, Ian. I mean, maybe did you want to pull up maybe just a couple of the plugins and just talk through them?
Yeah.
And then we can go into Q&A.
Yeah. So what I was going to I'm sorry.
No, you're crushing it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So let me explain a little bit then. The Mellotron next up is what I was going to show is a sample-based synth or keyboard, I should say, in which there's 3 samples that are layered on top of each other, allowing for effects to be added onto them. You can actually morph between the 3 different samples that are located on different sections of the keyboard with the modulation wheel as well. Then I go into the pianos. The pianos are something that I'm in love with, and I really wish I could show them to you now. I actually designed my own piano because Arturia allows you to design so many different parts within our physical modeling technology. This allows for even more lifelike performance from the available dynamics and velocity to recreating an ever-moving tail or sustain of the sound. You'll notice that because you're not playing a recreated or re-recorded sample of the actual keyboard, your velocities are super smooth. You're actually able to play You know, some real lush pads from, you know, lower registers to higher registers to the pianos being just very silky smooth, I should say. And I really wish I could play them for you. Once again, I had some cool stuff set up. But anyways, let's get into the effects collection. The effects collection is pretty incredible. I had a song by called "It's Over" by Lamel that I had it all set up for you for the vocals and such. But we have something called the pre-1973 preamp, which enables you to have a Neve emulation type saturated plugin. And if I can pull that up, that would be amazing. Let's see here. There it is. So this emulation plugin allows you to get that Neve sound. I use it on almost everything. It's super easy to use. The EQ section here, everything is just like it is on an actual Neve console, and they're absolutely incredible. Then you go to the 1176, for example, right? In which you have a normal 76, as you would say, there's a lot of them out there, but they did something really cool with this feature, enabling you to link the input and the output. So you don't have to sit there and try and maneuver the input with the output in different ways. You can do parallel compression with this compressor knob, mixing the dry signal with the compressor to kind of give a combo type sound. And we have advanced panels, which I'll get into that in a little bit. I can get it to now, I guess. There's different detection modes. Okay, on a stereo signal, you can actually mix and compress the mid signal more so than the outside signal. So if I put on a drum bus, I'll put on the kick and the snare in the middle section of the field. It'll compress more of the middle signal and create kind of more of a put the stuff on the side more in the back to create more of a hard hitting type of sound. Conversely, I'll do the opposite with my with my stay level with the instruments bus. I'll compress the sides instead of the mid to give it more of that side field. And it just sounds incredible. I mean, just your ability to do that is really cool. It's super easy. You don't have a whole bunch of, knobs and faders and tweaks you have to do to be able to do that. And it's really, really easy and fast, and it sounds magnificent. And then I use a vocal doubler for his vocals on the Delay Eternity, which is not a recreation, it's a creation from Arturia, which we're great at as well. And the vocal doubler allows itself to get a richness in the vocal, get a fullness in the vocal that's not prominent with using anything else other than like a vocal doubler, such as a reverb. The reverb that we use is called one of the ones that we have here is a Rev Plate 140, which has a tube saturation drive coming into it, the punchy model, the classic EMT model, and the modern model. It just sounds incredible. I mean, you got the width here. It's super easy to use. Once again, you got the advanced panel like everything that we have. Pre-delay, high-pass filter, modulation to add chorus effect to your reverb, which gives this glistening type of brightness to it. And then you can go ahead and carve your sound a little bit to get the highs and the lows to kind of tweak itself and create something more defined for the vocal itself. And then we have, what else did I use? I used this delay as reverb intensity, which is an amazing reverb. I've gotten so many compliments on this guy. Again, advanced panel. It's not a recreation, this is a creation that Arturia put together. And I use this in this song for the delay, the back end delays to kind of create this wash effect that's really popular in this pop era right now. And I believe that's about, one last thing would be the DBX VCA 65 I used on the clap. I used on the clap, the kick, and the bass. What I love about this is the peak stop limiter knob allows you to get a saturated tone, that's more very, it's so different sounding. I mean, if I were to tweak this all the way over here, it would have a very saturated tail to the clap in and of itself. If I were to have it all the way over here, it would be very sharp and thin. So I usually like it about there in almost everything, my kick and my bass, and it adds harmonics, more tone, more thickness to it. That's very prominent and very fast and easy to get. Again, you have the advanced panel. Here you don't, because this is a mono track, you don't have the stereo field detection mode here, but you have other parameters. You have EQs. You can set up your own de-esser, your full parallel compression here. No, I'm sorry, up here. And yeah, that's about the gist of it. And I think that's really what I wanted to show. You know?
Awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ian. That was awesome. Again, thank you for being patient with all this. I call it pandemic problems with technology as it pertains to webinars. This is awesome. I wish folks could have heard it. So a couple of questions as it pertains specifically to, you can leave the session up there. Maybe if you want to maybe stop sharing, but do leave the session up in case we need to get back to it.
Sure.
I'll go ahead. We'll just kind of jump into some of the Q&A, but before we actually jump into Q&A, I figure just wanted to, folks to get to know you a little bit. And so, you're based in LA. You've been, you're a producer and engineer. You've been working in Pro Tools, and obviously you're you're a writer as well.
Yeah.
How do you find the balance between, using not just effects plugins, which again, everyone's doing in Pro Tools, but being able to host your virtual instruments and kind of doing some of the work there? I'm not saying that you don't do work in other DAWs, but specifically as it pertains to Pro Tools, what is that like for you? What does that mean to you?
I love the idea of staying in one place. I look at Pro Tools personally as like a linear form from left to right. Instead of looking at it in blocks and loops, which is cool too. Sometimes if I wanted it to be more free flowing and incorporate some more live instruments with my productions, it makes it very easy and flowing, because it's all right there. I can start my mix early because it's going to be in there anyways. You know what I mean? I can make those tweaks and think more about the mix as I'm producing. Because it goes hand in hand with where it's going to end up, and again, doing free flowing pianos to throwing live drums and throwing a guitar on there and then throwing your 808 in there and doing all these things. And what I love about Pro Tools too is the quantize functions. There's a bunch of them, and I can do a Logic quantize, I can do an MPC quantize, I can do all these different things that come with Pro Tools and get those abilities to mix with other DAWs in a sense. If you get a session from a friend who did it in Logic or Ableton or whatnot, you can kind of match their quantized structure in Pro Tools and create something, in conjunction.
So actually, yeah, you bring up a good point, and maybe I'll show that quickly just so folks actually get a sense of exactly what you just said. So, obviously earlier I showed, where's my editor range window? Man, Zoom is not playing nice today. So I'll go ahead and I'll find that and I'll pull it up here in a second. So you kind of talked about quantize and being able to import or use different types of quantized values. And that's actually a really good point to mention. So I'm going to pull up a session here. I won't play anything back, but let's go ahead and I'll kind of show exactly what you're talking about. So you should all be able to see. So this is actually a record I'm working on right now. Let's see, let's find an instrument here. Here we go, here's something. So you can do this either in real-time properties, or if you wanted to use the actual, typical destructive quantize function, which is up here in event operations. You can find it there as well. We've got all these different values that are available. So if I pull up my note values here, obviously you can see, quarter note, quarter note, 16th, 8th note, whole note, etc. Of course, we've got dotted and triplets, but we've actually got an entire set of groove templates that are built into Pro Tools. So if you've got someone who's coming over from Logic or from Cubase and they're used to those specific quantize grooves, we have them here in Pro Tools. So that's actually a really good point that you mentioned, Ian. And of course, all the famous MPC swing. So I was an MPC user back in the day, as they say, and I love being able to have that exact feel on my hi-hats from the MPC here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also important to note that you can actually import your own groove templates as well. So very powerful. That's a really good point. So I wanted to make sure we actually showed that since you mentioned it. That's a good point. So we can just jump right into the questions. I know we've only got about 10, 12 minutes or so. We've got some stuff queued up here. So the first one is actually for you, Ian. So Greg Plastic wanted to know, wanted to know your system information of the computer that you're using, so CPU, RAM, et cetera. And then I'll give mine as well, just so folks get a an idea of the systems we're using.
Sure. If I go under the hood, check out my stats. I'm using a Mac OS Mojave, Apple computer, 16 gigs of RAM, 2.7 gigahertz processor. It's a little older. It's a mid 2012 laptop, and that's about that. Yeah. I mean, what else can I tell you about it? I mean, that's the core of the system.
So it's a MacBook Pro, right?
MacBook Pro, yes, that's correct. Using an AudioFuse Studio audio interface.
Okay.
Mind you, our interfaces are absolutely incredible. Definitely recommend checking those out. So
excellent. Yeah, definitely do that. So the specs on mine. So I'm running Catalina. So I'm on 10.15.5, actually 10.15.6 now. I've got a MacBook Pro, 15-inch, 2016. It's a 2.9 gigahertz i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. So it's not the most powerhouse machine. It's not weak by any means, but I'm doing all of my work on that machine here in my studio. So there's a lot of great computers. There are a lot of great computers out there, whether you're using Mac or PC. Of course, Pro Tools works on PC as well. All the Arturia stuff is available on PC as well, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Greg, I hope that answers your question. A couple other things. So this question kind of goes to that. Consuelo Cordy asked, "What specs are you using to be able to create all the tracks and have all of these plugins on?" So we just kind of said what the system specifications are. And the question for you, do you use them as inserts or do you bus them? Right. So I think that's a workflow question.
Yeah. I use, of course, your instruments are on your inserts. I use, as far as effect collection is concerned, I use my compressors as inserts. I use my pre's as inserts. And then my effects sends, I use reverbs and delays and vocal doublers as send as well. That's pretty much it. You can get crazy with your mix later with your bus compressions and do different things as a bus in later form, but mainly start with your inserts and your sends. And I would say in that sense, in my opinion, it's easy and it sounds great.
Yeah. So I mean, the option really at the end of the day is up to the user, right?
And Pro Tools is insane as far as your ability to route buses and create interesting variations of group tracks and buses, and it's very advanced.
And I think that speaks to the whole idea of being able, creating and in the same space that you're going to be, mixing and editing. To me, that's extremely powerful to be able to do all of that in the same place. Of course, obviously I'm biased, but I think I'm allowed to be. So we've got a few other questions here. So this one, I'll take this one. This is specifically about Pro Tools and subscriptions. So Rob Swart wanted to know when Falcon 2.1 will be available for Pro Tools subscriptions. The answer, Rob, is soon. So with UVI, our partners, also based in France, actually so much great stuff comes out of France. We've got plug-in companies, wine, food, cheese, bread. I mean, France is rocking. So soon. So the basically what happens is as UVI updates their plugins, specifically with Falcon, we have a separate binary that's created specifically for for subscribers. So it does take a little bit of extra time and a little bit of extra work, but it is coming. So hang tight, it's coming. So fear not. I don't have a specific date, but do know that it's coming. Let's see, where am I here? A couple other questions. Actually, while I'm scrolling through these questions, I'll get to the next couple here. Ian, did you want to maybe, you've started a really cool user group, a Facebook user group for Arturia users. So yes, regardless of what DAW they're on, do you want to quickly talk about that? And I think I'm going to be joining, although I'm not in any of those cities specifically, but I'm going to join anyway.
Please
if you have me. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we started up the user groups, I think in August, Arturia user groups that are based in 3 cities so far, Los Angeles, Chicago, and the Northeast. Of course, you're welcome to come in and join at any point in time from anywhere. They're basically about at least once a month, trying to do it twice a month, but basically we've got the effects collection, mixing and effects collection. We've got sound design specifically from scratch in OBXA and pigments. This next Saturday, we have somebody named Jay Eldon who'll be doing 808 designing in pigments. Some amazing stuff, just designing your own 808s inside of pigments. Then we have an effects collection coming on as well after that. But yeah, come be a part. Come search for it on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. And we won't have any technical difficulties as we did today with myself. they're solid guys, you know. No, it's been great. It's been really cool. And you'll be able to see the native side of recreations available to yourself.
That's awesome. So yeah, I'm going to push for you to create a group for, I should say, South Florida, but Miami. So we get a lot of great Pro Tools and Arturia, users here. So we want to see that happen. Selfishly for myself. So, so we've got one that came in from YouTube. I'm gonna send this one to you, and you can take this one up the chain to Arturia. So Marcus Garvey, I'm gonna guess that's his real name. Which for me being Jamaican, that name means something very, very, very specific and awesome. But Marcus from YouTube is asking begging Arturia to create DSP versions of their plugins. So I guess specifically that would be for the effect stuff. So I will, we always love to be able to host DSP versions of plugins, specifically on the effects side. On the instrument side, that's something that requires a different kind of real-time reading on the DSP chips. So that's a different, those remain native, but certainly on the effects side, that is a possibility. So I'll let you take that one up the chain.
Let me explain, because I've used everything underneath the sun. I've been doing music for 20 years. I've used every interface out there. I've used DSP processing. Now I've been using for a couple of years all Arturia software, to really gain my repertoire as far as how it works with the system, with the DAW, in Pro Tools, in Logic, in FL Studio, and Ableton or whatnot. And I can tell you it runs very, very smoothly, extremely smooth. I haven't had any problems. I've mixed complete records when Zoom's not on. It works absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm able to actually print the effects just like you would in the DSP mixer per se. Going into your DAW, you can have the compressor emulations. You can compress. You can use the Neve emulations going in if you want to save processing power, or just go ahead and use them. I don't even do that. I just use it on the output, on the actual group channel send, or on the track itself. And I don't have any problems. I record for about 128 megabytes buffer size, or even 256. But it works. It's very sharp. It's very fast. I don't have any latency issues at all.
Yeah, I'll second you on that one, Ian. I've been an Arturia fan for a long time on the virtual instrument side. I started using a lot of the effects plugins last year, and there are a few that are favorites. The Plate 140 has become a favorite, and a couple of others. And I have to say that I'm an HDX user, so I use HDX DSP pretty heavily, not as heavily as many other folks. I'm still a newbie technically when it comes to it, but I am using HDX. However, I do work natively a ton, and I have to say that the plugins, the CPU load is really light, and I'm able to instantiate a bunch of plugins from instruments and the effects without any issue. So hats off to you guys on that. And actually that's a really good segue into our next question that came from JP Sousa. Any issues with Catalina and or Big Sur? Any plugin not compatible? So I'll start on the Avid side. So we are Big Sur is obviously still in testing phase, in beta phase from Apple to be released relatively soon. We are working on it. We're pushing forward and making to make sure that Pro Tools and all of the plugins that are associated with it on the Avid side are working. But I also know that all of our developer partners, Arturia included, are working on that as well. So I do know that on the Catalina side, and I'll let you answer that for Arturia, but that's all working. All the Arturia stuff is working perfectly in Catalina. Do you want to mention anything there, Ian, and maybe talk about what you guys are doing as far as Big Sur?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know much about the Big Sur integration just as of yet. I'm on Mojave, as you can see. There's Catalina, I know works great. On Big Sur, I honestly don't know where we're at with that. To be quite honest, I need to find out here shortly, because I'll need to do that and update here at some point. So.
Well, I do know, I mean, thankfully, just working with some of the Arturia dev team here and there, you guys are working on it. So we know that, so it'll happen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of folks expect that, the day an OS is launched, that, magically everything that is associated on their computer is going to automatically work. There's a lot of work. I mean, whether it's Microsoft Office to, Arturia stuff to Pro Tools, there's a lot of work that goes into all of this. It's a lot of heavy lifting by some really amazing and talented people. So we do ask for patience. We also do understand. I mean, I'm a user of all of this stuff myself, and I want that too. Yeah. But we do ask for patience because we want to make sure we all get it right. So we're almost at the top of the hour. We just wanted to get to maybe one or two more questions really quickly. So Sergio Assad Garcia Mendoza asked if you are using an 88 key weighted heavy key or weighted controller. Do you happen to use one, Ian?
I have. I'm actually using a 61 Mark II, Arturia Key Lab, and I've had the 88 for a while, and I've switched it out for the 61 just for space reasons in my studio. But yeah, I love them both. I don't know. They integrate amazing with the Analog Lab and your DAW. They integrate with Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton, you name it, Studio One, FL, and we work with Analog Lab very well. I mean, like I said, it's a mirror image to your knobs and faders, in which I was showing there before. And you can the most popular, supposedly, and what we've kind of come up with, as far as the easiest ways to tweak a sound of synth, because you don't always want to open the hood and get into the nitty-gritty details of the synth and have to learn where all the knobs are. Sure. The easiest way to get to your sound modifications is with those knobs and those faders right on the board itself, and they correlate to what's on the screen.
Awesome.
You don't have to go searching for the knob and see where it's turning.
Yeah, it's pairing. It's pairing just one-to-one, just there, ready to go. Yeah, that's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. So one last one for you, Ian, and then there's one last one, and then I think we're actually after our allotted time. But thanks for everybody for continuing to send questions in and for hanging out. So I think a few folks over on Facebook were asking if there was a link for the Facebook user groups. Is there a specific link, or should they just search for the user groups?
There are the links, but I mean, I'd have to go and search for them right now. But go ahead and just search Arturia user group Los Angeles, Arturia user group Chicago, or Arturia user group Northeast. Okay. Those are what you should search for, and you'll find them right away.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that should correlate, ask questions, and be a part of the group. That'd be great.
Awesome. Yeah. That's excellent. Thank you, Ian. So one last one. This one came from YouTube, and I'm going to try and figure this out. It was kind of written a bit jumbled here. Are all demos or trial AAX 64-bit plugins, do those affect the CPU usage within Pro Tools? If I'm understanding the question correctly, I don't know who specifically asked it. I don't see a name, but for the YouTube listener, watcher, participant who's watching and asked that. So the demo or trial plugins are usually wrapped in the same, what we call binary installer as the regular paid non-cracked version of the plugin. So it's going to affect the CPU the exact same way. Typically what will happen is there'll be, an addition of either a timer or a clock that's built into the plugin as it counts down the amount of, the amount of days or whatever the time usage is. Also, there might be a part of it that's pinging the system, actually, so it gets the date and the time, or, it's pinging for other information as it relates to the usage of the plugin so that it knows when to expire. But that would really be the only additional thing or juice that would be needed of the plugin. So basically you're basically getting the same kind of usage from your CPU and or your RAM as you would from the normal paid version of that plugin. I hope that answers the question. I think that's what you're asking. If not, we'll try and answer it again next time. So we are actually out of time. Thank you, Ian. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'll do this again. We'll go have a chat with Zoom, and we'll continue maybe helping them work on the audio engine. Again, even with the Zoom team, this is not an easy thing for that team, I'm sure, to work and try to make this platform available to us to be able to do all this heavy lifting with high bandwidth audio, or
sharing
with crazy session parameters. So thank you to the Zoom team. We know it's not easy. You guys are doing great work there as well. But anyway, Ian, thank you so much. Thank you to Arturia. We want to say a special hi to Ralph Goldheim, who's out scuba diving right now. We're very jealous. But again, thank you. We'll definitely have you back. And thank you to everybody. Thank you to our moderators here and all over on all of our social platforms. But most importantly, thank you to every single one of you who hung out and joined us today, wherever you might be in the world. We will have this available for replay. And actually, that brings me very, very good news. We are actually going to have a place where this all lives within the next week. So we'll announce that. It'll be very easy to find all of the past sessions, all of the past audio community plugins. So please, again, everyone stay safe wherever in the world you are. We'll be back in a couple weeks. We'll be announcing our next audio plugin session pretty soon, and it's going to be another really great one. Again, Ian, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please continue to stay safe, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Thank you.